Project Manager Days is sponsored by the Association Advancement in Cost Engineering, as well as it's basically sponsored by On Track Engineering, Trafficon, PMSoft, and a few other companies, with the full intention that bringing back project management perspectives into Ukraine. If there's any questions during the presentation, I do not want everybody just sitting here, you listen and we speak. This is supposed to be interactive, so if you have questions and perspectives during the presentations, Naum from Trafficon, myself, Pavel from PMSoft, please address them to us, because the objective is to get you to work with your colleagues here in Ukraine. Eventually, during the day, we'll probably have about 50 people coming in and out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start the presentation off discussing AACE, what we do, and why it's beneficial for project management and project controls. After that, we're going to talk about funding. Naum will basically talk about what's the importance of how we can fund projects in Ukraine. Naum is the partner from Trafficon, and what Trafficon does is they help fund complex projects around the world in multiple industries. They're headquartered out of Prague, and they work with EBRD, IMF, World Bank, Asian Bank, USXM, and OPIC. And as I said, headquartered out of Prague. On Track is a Canadian company. We're partnered with LGM International, LGM Construction out of the US, and we're headquartered out of Calgary and internationally out of Prague and Kiev. And AACE is a US nonprofit association that is internationally known for being the excellence of what we call total cost management, to many of you just called project controls. I'm the leader for the past 20 years in the former Soviet Union. They're headquartered out of Moscow with a main office, with an office in Kiev, focusing on Oracle Primavera, Acumen, and consulting and training in project management and project controls. AACE was formed in 1956. It was basically created by some initial project controls people from Black and Beach, Stone and Webster, and Foster Wheeler, with the intention of trying to bring controls to project management. I've been a member of AACE for about 25, 26 years. I founded the Chernobyl and Ukraine sections of AACE, the Greater Russia section, the Central Asia sections. I was on the education board writing the guides on earned value management, decision risk management, skills and knowledge for 12 years. And currently I'm the regional director for Africa and Europe for AACE, trying to increase our membership and training through sessions like this. Which, to give you a perspective, means I cover from Greenland to Sakhalin down to South Africa, and I get the same budget as the guy who has Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Florida. In other words, we don't have perspective like most projects. Why it's important is if you consider or look at after the session about joining AACE and you think about the benefits, I've tried to be very proactive. I'm basically your senator or your official to AACE to represent you. And we're volunteers. We don't get paid for this. And my objective is to set the bar higher when I work in projects, when I manage projects, and when I work for groups, is to set the bar higher for the next people to keep it going. So in the 9 months out of my 2-year terms, I've been to a board meeting in the US. I've tried to integrate Russian and international and Ukrainian and European project controls in South America, United Arab Emirates, Canada, and Bogota, Colombia, trying to share the experiences of the former Soviet Union with other areas, because people want to do business here, but to be honest, many of you want to do business in other countries. I've been in Almaty. I've done this presentation and encourage people to come in to speak to you in Almaty, Moscow, Paris, Lisbon, Rome. That's the one I missed, and Madrid and London over the past 9 months. Trying to encourage people because, as I said, many of you work there and many people work here. And similarly, one of the things we try to do is encourage the bringing up of college graduates or interns into AACE and the companies because they're the future of the projects. Obviously, with all this gray hair, I'm old. So, and the key part, as you can see on the rest of the slide, between regional meetings, visiting with employers, visiting with universities, what we're trying to do is teach and get people in a consistent manner of which they execute project controls to support project managers. So, first question, how many people here are members of PMI? The difference between PMI and the difference between AACE. PMI is a theoretical-based organization of project management. IPMA and AACE are competency-based. In other words, you have to have the experience in which to execute project controls and project management. And why is that important to understand the differences beyond the fact of application and theory? You can put that in perspective. What does an engineer do and what does a project manager do? Engineers bring in theory, physics, application of laws, while project management executes the ability to bring that through. That's the difference between the two associations. That's the difference in the realities that we live in the world. So that's why PMI has 150,000, 200,000 members, and why AACE, we're about 8,000 members. We're specialists, we're competency-based. So AACE has basically taken the objective of having 5 strategies for the next years to advance our objectives. So as a project manager, program manager, I've executed as a manager about $40 billion of projects over the past 20 years, and probably another $15 billion that I supported when I was younger and no gray hair. And the objective of AACE is to basically look at our technological projects, our educational materials, and our competency-based certifications, that the people that you pick, if they're consistent with that, as a manager, they're going to be the strength of your organization. And regretfully, as you can tell when you get a slide from headquarters, it says 5 and I have 6, so they don't know how to count in headquarters. That's why they need us, not those theoretical-based people. So basically, as I said, update technology. We have one of the things I've been stressing for 20 years, and it started actually when I worked at Chernobyl, is the stressing of education and translation, i.e. same documents in multiple languages in a consistent format. We want to continually update our technological base of materials. If you're a member of AACE, you can tap into a virtual library of documents that go back 60, 70 years, but have relevance on what we're doing right now, because in one way, the theory of project management, project controls has not changed in 70 years. So in the promotion of TEC projects, or tech, what we call tech projects, what we're trying to look at is that we have over 90 recommended practices in the system, written by people no different than any of you. It's just they've decided to put their ideas and thoughts on paper. So just to identify again the great qualities of our organization, you can tell by a bunch of fat white people who shouldn't be wearing shorts, this is the organization supporting you. But they are the best minds out there. If you look at the people on that board, out of the top 10 international construction companies, they represent some of the best. One of the key books that we have that if you're a member you get to download for free is Total Cost Management Framework. It's basically, it's not a how-to guide, it's a framework or an outline of how project controls should operate. The second thing that's important to them beyond looking at recommended practices and doing the TCM is they basically coordinate the annual meeting, which floats all around the U.S. right now, and we have international sub-meetings. And that's where they get people to talk about the projects they build, live studies, or how they execute a project, and present those at the annual meeting for everybody to share. In certification, which is to me the most important part, there are basically 8 certifications offered by AACE. And certifications just aren't, to me, titles and things for a job. Basically, what they represent is you are hiring competency-based people if they're certified because they have at least 8 years of experience. They have to renew their certification every 3 years, which means they have to be consistent on the most current knowledge that you have. So there are 2 technical-based certifications, a certified cost technician and a certified scheduler. Those are the entry-level people, but if you have that certification or you hire that certification, you're getting somebody who has a base understanding of cost and schedule techniques for project management. The 4 certifications that they have is basically a planning and scheduling professional, an earned value professional, an estimating professional, and a certified cost professional. The biggest difference is a certified cost is actually a higher certification, and it's the original certification of the association. It's more of a project controls manager because you have a full balance of the project controls field. And then there's 2 more certifications that are a specialty. One is decision and risk management, and one is forensic claims. And if you've got a certified forensic claim expert helping you, you're going to pretty much got to get a good chance of winning your case. These people, to get certified in that, have to have about 10 years experience, have to have presented cases in front of arbitrators, and have actually been in court. So they're basically, they're what we call certified legal experts, and most of them are internationally understood. And on education, we have the skills and knowledge, which is a basic guide of practices, and it's actually the basis for establishing procedures. We have certification study guides, so we have a book for every, we have a book or guideline for every exam. It's a study guide, not a how-to guide, what you should know so that you can pass the exam. We have continuing education via live programs, and we also offer scholarships, both North American based and international based. So if you're international going to school in North America, US or Canada, or you're in the US or Canada or international, you have multiple ways to get scholarships. And we have an online course that's regretfully everything's still pretty much in English, but we have online courses for learning project controls. We're trying to become more technologically advanced with mobile websites and apps, as well as increasing blogs and networking, and the entire library, the association, more than 50,000 documents, is available online to members. And as you can see, we're trying to do engagement platforms to encourage people to go. One of the things I focus on with the international sections is getting the sections to not be in English, is to be in their native language. So in Russia, Ukraine tends to use the Russian, Italian, French, Spanish. You want people to do and utilize native language. And one of the key things is we were looking at this year about rebranding. Do we need to change our name and reevaluate ourselves? And we wanted to get the feeling worldwide of what people thought about us. So we're continually trying to market and review ourselves in a positive manner. And what it basically means is that we've learned what everybody else tends to learn in things. Half your people don't ever want to change, and the other half of the people want to always change. So in other words, our marketing survey was consistent with everybody's patterns. So as you can see, we got a variety of different ideas that came through, and let me put it in perspective. Everybody remembers Federal Express, FedEx, rebranding and relooking at your name and titles is something that everybody does. The good news is after all these really useless names, they decided to just leave it alone. And the big one, 25 years ago, we actually adjusted AACE, which is what it was called, the American Association of Cost Engineers. We became the Association for Advancement of Cost Engineers to stay with the same acronym, but we actually put the word international on. And when we did that, that's when I basically said, good, that means you have to translate, that means you have to teach, you have to have international sections. So we went through the strategy, the marketing plans, we hired a consultant, and we looked at the only two things that really were pertinent is we need to relook at how we get corporate members and how we recruit people to advance the association. So we spent lots of money to do basically what we already knew. That's marketing. And the key part, one of the things we're trying to do is it said be regionally diverse. And Julie right there, my friend, Julie's the past president of AACE. She and I had basically a vision that you cannot be an association and everybody sits in America and says you're international. So she, like I, did a road trip around the world. This is Australia, Middle East, Europe, and basically did what I'm doing with you to spread AACE around the world. So this is what Julie and I have done in 2 years, or 3 years. To me, that represents international. Though we have a complaint from the penguins in Antarctica because neither one of us went to Antarctica. Somehow, I thought it was cold in Narromar. Antarctica's colder. One of the big things is working on translations. The first two bases of documents that were ever translated were Japanese and Russian. I recruited a friend of mine in Japan from Toyo Engineering, and the Japanese, being efficient, did it in 3 months. I recruited basically people to do Russian. It took 3 years. And then I had to hire a consultant for $35,000 to write the document. Regretfully, as much as they say the Chinese are good at pirating, they still haven't beaten my record. It's been 5 years and we still don't have Chinese. And all joking aside, the reason why is AACE is a volunteer-based association. We do not have this massive revenue stream like PMI. So if we want to translate something, I need volunteers or I need companies to donate money. And since companies don't even train their own people anymore, try to get money from a company. And the strength of the association is what we call sections, local regional groups that get together, share ideas, network, and work on these items together. And to give you a perspective, where I told you at the beginning that Region 9 is the biggest landmass region in the world, we had 5 sections for all of Europe and Africa. South Africa, Norway, United Kingdom, Nigeria, and Greater Russia, which I founded. Since I've been the regional director last June in 9 months, where I said I'm very proactive, I've added France, Portugal, Spain, Italy, and Central Asia, and Turkey will be up probably in about a month. And the key thing is the reason why is the future of the association is the future of what we do as a profession and what we market as projects, and it leads into Naum's presentation on how you get projects funded. So the key part is I started 5 minutes late because we were waiting. We're now 7 minutes late, which means I've done effective project management. I'm only 20% over budget right now. Does anybody have any questions about AACE right now? Okay, good. We just saved a minute. So I'd like to introduce Naum. Naum is the Ukrainian partner for Traficon. Traficon is a international financial, it has 2 divisions. There's Traficon and Traficon Advisors. Naum's with Traficon Advisors. Traficon Advisors, I've worked with Traficon. I actually was a client with them. We funded a project in Ukraine for about $165 million. Now, regretfully, like all project management, we got it funded, we got it supported, we were ready to go. And between the Ukrainian government and the American contractor, they couldn't come up with a deal, so we basically let the Dutch build it. So, yeah, at least it got built. It was a tiny little place called Lviv Airport. So for 6 months, I was very famous as the first American to win a public-private partnership in Ukraine, and I got to sell it to the Dutch.
Good afternoon, nice to see all of you, and Sean has already introduced me, and thank you for that. I will present in Russian, although the presentation is in English. At first, I supposed that we would have more English-speaking people here in the audience, but that's why, sorry for maybe some misinterpreting some of the terms, but we'll get along. The presentation is quite long, 22 slides, but I won't go into much details and will concentrate on weak points, pain points of project funding in Ukraine, because Ukraine has some specifics which can be also that Ukraine shares with some other CIS countries. And on the other hand, I hope that with Sean's help and the help of AACE, we'll be able to find ways to solve those problems. So first we need to define projects, and a project is normally a long-term infrastructure, industrial or public services scheme, development or undertaking with the following characteristics. It has a very large size, scope, it requires a lot of capital, it has a definite but quite a long life cycle, it have rather few diversification opportunities because it's asset-based, and it requires a standalone legal entity, it can generate rather high operating margins and significant free cash flows. As a rule, such projects have heavy government involvement because they are based on government initiatives, and they are heavily monitored by governmental bodies, and they follow the principle build, own, operate, or build, own, and transfer. Typical types of these projects being motorways, mass transport systems, dams, railways, power plants, public utilities, airports, and other large undertakings. Let's define what is project financing, because for Ukrainian governmental structures and project financing is quite a new and exotic and term that needs clarification. So based on IPFA definition, it's the financing of a long-term infrastructure, industrial projects, and or public services based upon a non-recourse or limited recourse financial structure, where project debt and equity used to finance the project are paid back from the cash flows generated by the project itself. In Ukraine, there is only one bank that can provide semi-classic project financing because they still require additional collateral and securities. Although the classic scheme of project financing doesn't require that, and the only security is the asset and cash flow generated by this asset in future. We need to understand that such undertakings have rather very high risks, and that is why requirements to project preparations are very strict. For private sector, project financing is very attractive because it doesn't require additional collateral. Some key characteristics of project financing. So first, it's about financing long-term infrastructure and or industrial projects using debt and equity. Debt is typically repaid using cash flow generated by the asset after it's in operations. Limited recourse. Debt is typically secured by project's asset and future contract that will produce revenue. And while cash flow, revenue flow distribution, the lender has first priority, and consent of the lender is required to disburse any surplus cash flows to project sponsors. So project sponsors, project owners are the last to get money generated by the project. The advantages of project financing. First, as we said, minimum or no recourse, then limitation of the amount of the recourse. Then it's possible to keep this project financing off balance, and public companies can benefit from that, so their equity is not limited. The share price is not influenced by this project, because the project finances itself, it's project based, and such project financing allows to maximize the leverage of the projects. And there are some other particular things. I won't dive too deep into them, and let's move to disadvantages of project financing. So the disadvantages. At the same time, there are obstacles to apply project financing in Ukraine, and we hope to be able to overcome them with the help of Sean and his team. So first question that we need to answer is who lends money under this project financing scheme? It's international monetary institutions, large international banks with a lot of bureaucracy, with very slow people getting high salaries and taking a lot of time to check your documents, and so you need to be prepared to that. And besides, Ukraine is still considered a high-risk country, or the same as Uganda, Somalia, and some others. It's an outrage to me, but it's the fact. So you need to be prepared to very long time, and you need to be prepared that your project will be assessed as high risk. Second point is project development costs are substantially higher because of the very stringent compliance requirements. Requirements to legal and financial transparency, project management standards, and Sean and his colleagues can assist you in achieving that and providing proof that your project is well managed and controlled, and tendering requirements and so on. The next point, higher transaction costs, because an independent legal entity needs to be created for such projects, and you have to meet extensive due diligence requirements in terms of legal, taxation, and finance. Project debt is more expensive because of its non-recourse nature, but it's not more expensive than just regular corporate financing for developing the existing business. Managers of such contract are highly restricted in their freedom to choose contractors, because it's certain rules are set for selecting contractors, not only for building this project, but also there are also terms for future contracts to supply the products of operations of this facility, be it electricity or port operation or service utilities. And one more point that is very... So quite a problem for Ukraine is the necessity to disclose proprietary information, and even strategic agreements, and adhering to stringent transparency requirements, and even reporting and disclosing the source of the initial capital used to fund this project. sponsor compliance is actually problem number one for implementing project financing in Ukraine and also in Russia, because sponsors, owners of the project are rarely meet all transparency rules in terms of political involvement or business transparency. Completion risk is the main risk that you should address in preparing documentation for project financing, because it's by many international monetary institutions, it's considered the biggest risk. They don't trust the project implementation structures and see a lot of endangering factors. So you need to be very accurate and be well prepared. In order to do so, you should get contractual guarantees from contractors and select vendors with good reputation that can be acknowledged by international monetary institutions. Second risk, price risk, it's quite clear and obvious. You should, because prices fluctuate and there are currency risks, that's why you simply need to calculate substantial margins for reserves for such cases. Third risk is not the same as price risk. You need to foresee and plan contingency. Many people make the mistake of calculating everything they need to implement the project, but forget to calculate contingency and put some money aside and create reserves for such unforeseen events. Speaking about operating risks or performance risks, the ways to address that risk are to find an experienced operator with international expertise for such facilities as ports or airports or railways, an operator that can guarantee high quality, well-established procedures of operations. And second way to address that risk is insurance. Speaking about political risks, political risk is considered very high for Ukrainian projects, and you can address them in several ways. First, to create an international PMO using external law or external jurisdiction and external bank accounts and political risk insurance. You can use it only if your project has international involvement, because for Ukrainian only companies, political risks cannot be insured. And besides, you can use contractual sharing of political risk between lenders and external project sponsors, and you can use governmental guarantees. Ukrainian government provides those kinds of guarantees for strategic projects, and it can be used. And also external guarantees or quasi-guarantees. We are running out of time. That's why I skipped some slides, but don't panic. We'll be able to discuss them during the panel discussion. And I would like to share with you this real scheme of project finance structure. As you see, a coal company, electric equipment supplier, and private equity partners put together 30% of the financial requirement, it's equity, and 70% is provided by five financiers building a syndicate, and also there are some governmental guarantees provided for this project, and also some partners and contractors, they also contribute. They are like security guarantees, and that's why we in this way we come to a very complex and multifaceted structure with very intricate future contract obligations. For instance, this electrical company takes obligations of buying and selling energy, electricity, and coal supplier, their own obligations and forward contracts. So that's how we come up with a very complex structure, but it's still necessary to stem to put forward such large projects. Some highlights regarding project financing structures. As we saw, we need an independent single-purpose company to build and operate this facility, and we need extensive contracting that can involve up to 15 parties, as many as 15 parties and up to 1,000 contracts that govern both inputs and outputs to build, operate, and sell the products of the operation, and also ancillary contracts. So on the previous slide, I mentioned that there are many sponsors in terms of both on the side of equity and finance, but here it's the summary of key prerequisites for successful financing, because I spoke a lot about how difficult it is, how complex these structures are, but it's also realistic, it's doable, and you should really use it. It's worth it. And we already have working, if you follow the procedures, you can get a very good tool to finance your projects. Right now we are working on a project with overall project cost of 100 million for stage 1 and the same amount for stage 2. It's a solar power plant to be built in Ukraine, and it's using both financing from international monetary institutions and international contractors and guarantees from the Ukrainian government and lending money from Ukrgazbank that I already mentioned. We've been preparing it for 10 months, and now we are near the so-called financial closure. But it's really worth it, and it shows that such stories can be successful. But if you want to get such financial support, you need to absolutely adhere to compliance rules. It's problem number one for Ukrainian entities because sometimes they somehow manage to obtain project rights, or for instance for port or airport development and operation, but they fail the due diligence because of some shady pre-agreements, or because they do not meet some requirements. So you should really you should really consider these requirements. And requirement number 2, it's sponsor transparency. Who are the owners, and do they meet the standards and the requirements? It's a must, although not many people in Ukraine and some other countries are ready to disclose information about the real beneficiaries of a project to be built. But in this case, if you want project to finance your project with international institutions, you need to disclose that information, and those sponsors have to have clean reputation, and they have to have a proof of money origin. We as company can consult you on doing that so that you provide all the proof needed. And the last 3 key prerequisites are a well-managed and controlled development process. So it's actually project management in all project lifecycle stages. And you need to be able to prepare and provide all the documents in time that we define. point number 4, a well-defined and transparent and controlled procurement process that is compliant with fund requirements. And lastly, completion and performance guarantees. I hope that I could be useful to you, and I can answer your questions further throughout the day and during the panel discussion. Now I would like to highlight once again the key to success in obtaining project financing is project management according to international standards. If you can prove that you use an organization that adheres to international standards that international funding organization can understand, so you're well set.
Well, the good news is actually his over budget compensates for the fact that Oracle shafted us. Regretfully, Oracle being Oracle, they just do what they want to do, and they don't care about us as customers anymore. I've been complaining about them for years, so it gives me my chance to give them a dig. This is like basically complaining about the IRS in the U.S. It's useless because they're everywhere, and we're stuck with them, but, you know. Okay, this is going to be the interactive part, though, for the next 15 minutes for the break. So I'm going to ask Lyazzat to jump up and help me. She just volunteered.
Интерактивная часть до перерыва минут 15. Я сейчас попрошу Lyazzat присоединиться ко мне и быть добровольцем, который
and just to help me spot.
поможет мне провести вот эту часть.
One of the things that's important, and I like to see amongst yourselves, let's have a discussion about software. I took my shot at Oracle because there's a trend going on, and some people understand the trend and some people don't understand the trend. Just like car dealers, just like insurance companies, just like airlines, what we've seen for us as experts in utilizing project management and project controls is we are seeing less opportunities in software as mergers take place. We're also seeing that in the construction and engineering industry, where we used to have 5 or 6 companies bidding on a project. We're down to 2 because those 2 companies have bought all the small competitors, because it's cheaper to buy now than it is to develop. Just to give you an example, Wood Group just bought AMEC, who had bought Foster Wheeler 4 years ago. AECOM, who Lyazzat and I met with and worked for, has bought Washington Group, Raytheon, Tishman. They've bought 19 companies in the past 3 years. 19? Yeah. Jacobs bought SKM so they could get into Australia and in England. And similarly, in the pharmaceutical industry, Merck, the largest German pharmaceutical company, bought about 11 companies in Czech Republic because they don't want to take the time to develop people and train. They just go buy a company. So just as companies are buying other companies in our industry, which causes a problem because we're losing competitive advantage of people basically bidding against each other. So we've had Oracle bought Primavera 7 years ago because they were not able to create their own project management software. They subsequently bought Skyer. They subsequently bought Risk Manager. So you have a software company that has bought our tool that we use as project management, project controls. And instead of it being run by people like us, it's now run by software engineers. Deltec of the UK bought OpenPlan, bought Cobra, bought Crystal Ball, and bought Acumen, which was a risk software. So instead of developing, they bought the companies and bring them into their mold. Which one? Deltec, Cobra, OpenPlan, and Acumen. RIB of Germany bought MC Squared estimating and US cost out of America so that they could do 6D modeling. Trimble bought Meridian because they did not have a cost and contracts program. And the latest purchase, Intergraph, who does 3D modeling, just bought Ecosys so they can compete with RIB and have this 6-dimensional modeling. So what's that mean is that basically 16 or 20 companies that I have dealt with at various things, because different projects have different ways, different things, have been consolidated to basically 4 companies. Now why am I bringing this up? Because, show of hands, how many here will say that your primary tool of doing project management, project controls is Excel? Most people use Excel. Right? Come on, I want to see hands. Show people the hand. How many people? Because I know Bechtel, Chernobyl, and like that uses Excel. AECOM does all their estimating on Excel. Software companies are buying and consolidating. They are not multi-language. They're losing customer service where you're here, you have a problem, you have to wait until, because they were bought by a Denver company, now you have to wait until the US opens up. And why it's important, that's a lot of diversity that we have. And the reason why is Olga and Lyazzat worked with me. There's a tiny little company in Russia. Anybody ever heard of Rosatom? Rosatom Russian Nuclear is now the only nuclear company in the world that's not gone bankrupt, which is interesting because Toshiba, who owned Westinghouse, was using Ecosys. They are now bankrupt after losing $20 billion for having, but they had the most expensive software on the market. Avera, who built the French nuclear program, has now was made bankrupt, and the French government forced EDF, Électricité de France, to purchase them to prevent them from defaulting. They used an off-the-shelf project of a combination of Ecosys and AACE, and they're now bankrupt. And then you have contractors, EPC contractors, Stone & Webster, Shaw Construction, all bankrupt and purchased by other companies that used major off-the-shelf software for their programs. And part of the reason Wood Group bought Mustang and now bought AMAC Foster Wheeler, those 2 companies were in distress because they used major off-the-shelf software. And the reason why I'm bringing up this a little simple software discussion is we have become overly dependent on software. Know for a fact that these software companies, on average, most of these companies paid $4 million plus to get that software integrated to their company so everybody used the same software. Each one of those companies I described bankruptcy in construction spent $4 million plus investing in a software that advertises that they sold to that company, and they've all gone bankrupt. And there's a reason. It's not the software. So put this in your head and think about for the panel and for other. It's lack of training, lack of looking at data. That doesn't come from a software. Software is a tool. It's like a hammer hitting a nail. But if you don't know where to put the nail, you're gonna have a problem. Don't rely on software. Think about this is that the whole reason why there really isn't a big software presentation here, which all the conferences like to do, it's about training, it's about analysis, and it's about decision making. I've lived in 7 countries in the past 3 years, done about $4 billion worth of overview on projects that were all in distress because they all relied on software. They had procedures, but the problem was people were not trained and did not have the ability to analyze the work. 6 of those 7 projects, the primary contractor was about to be terminated or in major legal financial issues because the people weren't trained. You're sitting here today is the first step of doing that. And yet it's the first thing that most of our managers cut. But if you're a manager, it's the first thing you should be doing is getting people trained. That's the success. You can't work with Naum, you can't work with us, you can't work with the US government, you can't work with the Ukrainian government if you're not trained and people don't understand and analyze what they're doing. That's the heart and soul of all the presentations this afternoon. And he's going to discuss Oracle Primavera and the PMSoft programs. Pavel is the representative from PMSoft in Ukraine. We've known each other for quite a few years. I've worked with PMSoft for almost 20 years. After that, I'll give a presentation that sort of goes in alignment with funding and training from taking off from where Naum is on what we look at on the project management and what we have to do to support funding. We'll have a light lunch out there, just some sandwiches and items. And then Lyazzat's going to talk to you about earned value management and a case study on Bittrit, Kazakhstan. And then we'll conclude with basically a question and answer panel that you can throw some questions or problems that you have, and we can try to answer or facilitate or get responses.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. My name is Pavel Kayuk. Kayuk is a surname that has certain connotations in Russian and in Ukrainian. It means disaster. I've been living with this surname my whole life, but it serves me good. I never need a badge or a business card. People always remember my surname. I was asked to come to you today and talk about Primavera in Ukraine, and that's what I'm going to do. And everyone expected that you might fall asleep before lunch. So my additional task is to keep you alive and going. So let's start. The name of the presentation is here on the slide: Myths and Reality of Oracle Primavera Adventures in Ukraine. So that's our agenda for today, and we are close the equator right now. Next logical step is to mention PMSoft and PMSoft Ukraine and tell how cool our company is. Why are we cool? As you see, our organization was established a long time ago, so we are wise. And we have quite many people, considering the fact that we are a consulting company, so even on an international level, that's a good staff count. PMSoft has a lot of branch offices in Moscow and in the different regions. For these 20 past years, we've been evolving and getting more trainings and participating in associations, and we have a lot of international partners. I have the honor to represent PMSoft Ukraine. We are Oracle Platinum partner, and we implement Primavera here and have a series of our own achievements. Some blah blah about our history, that's not very interesting. As for our activities, it's obvious. It's consulting, databases, infrastructure solutions, and trainings. And here I absolutely agree with Sean that without proper training, any software is just a tool that brings no practical use. So we achieved something in Ukraine. We have worked with very large organizations and with various institutions, construction companies, quite many companies and startups. We have a lot of great boys and girls working for us with a bunch of certificates. And next section is Oracle. Oracle is mega cool. And that's true. I don't know anything that Oracle is not doing in this world. But I think that Primavera is a true gem that Oracle acquired, and this gem is shining really brightly in Oracle's crown right now. And Primavera is mega, mega cool. And that's true. Two very motivated and very competent people met in the US in the early 80s. By the way, one of them was born in Berdyshev and the second one in Odessa. But they met in the US because they got their education there and started working. And they created a really good software tool, and they created proper architecture for it. And after that, that product has been developed for all these years. Since the early 80s, so you can understand this scope. Steve Jobs and Bill Gates were youngsters back then. Because Primavera was created originally for MS-DOS. Very, very correct mathematical logic. And so this product has been with us for 40 years already. And it's obvious that now this software solution is capable of anything, starting with business portfolio, programs, projects, and work packages. And now we'll assume a very fast pace and go through that. By just reviewing screenshots, we can set up project parameters and create a portfolio. And now they have really cool traffic light symbols, bullet points, analytical charts, and you can create a quality assurance tool for schedules. Interface has very good usability. We can use a single resource pool because at the foundation of it there is a relational database, and you can manage everything within your project scope by using it. And they are constantly evolving since Oracle acquired them. They are constantly putting new integrations with Oracle products and meeting new challenges that we as customers face. And by the way, we were capable of creating cash flow budgets and revenue and cost budgets, although Primavera was not designed to account for revenues. But still, as Sean mentioned, when you understand what you're doing, when you have analytical capabilities, so you can use these tools to create what you need. And by using Primavera, we are able to create a fully fledged system for analyzing both the earning part, the earnings part, and the spendings. But it's not the purpose of my being here and talking to you, because I would like to mention the myths, the legends. Legend number one, or myth number one. It's Primavera is obsolete. Some people think that Primavera is obsolete and it's not keeping the pace, it's not up to date. But that's not true. If you have a MacBook, and if you use co-working, all of those bearded youngsters, and if to you a schedule is a project management tool, then you can and you should use Primavera. Because the fancy agile development methodologies do not make those classic scheduling tools obsolete. They need to be applied simply in a smart, understanding way. Why is it so important? The reason is that IT startups and technological startups require scenario analysis at a very early stage. I've been actively working here on this in this market for 16 years, and within that time, 3 dozens of I knew I had to deal with 3 dozens of software products. And in terms of speed and efficiency and application of what-if analysis, Primavera is the best tool to do the job. Next point is risk analysis. Some of you might know the Monte Carlo method. That's a very interesting mathematical approach to risk analysis. And it's completely implemented in Primavera. And of course, now they have cloud solutions and mobile access that enable young teams of young developers to get access from anywhere and develop and control in a fast manner. Myth number 2. It's too expensive and too complicated. Let's digest it bit by bit. First, too expensive, then too complex. And here I can share our experience, because we not only we implemented Primavera, we also performed a lot of projects on behalf of owners and operators, projects in project development and controlling. And our customers were highly interested in how a team of 4 to 5 people can really manage a huge construction project with a budget of $50 million. But it's the answer is very simple. It's about 2 things really. First, it's a well-trained team of people who are capable of communicating like dolphins by using ultrasound, so to say. And our secret number 2 is application of 60 to 75% of all capabilities of Primavera. We never could achieve 100%, but at least 60 to 75%. I mean that 2/3 of the functions were automated. The whole document workflows, all communications, all information flows. Because Primavera has very good embedded instruments for that. The database is so there is a single database, and everything is recorded, and everything is archived and traceable. Different schedules on many layers, automated coordination of schedules, and other useful automated functions. So that's why these figures, the benefits that Primavera brought us are based on our solid experience. And if we express it in monetary form, so you can take the budgets that we managed and apply these factors, and you can understand that the efficiency increase was significant. That is why I always suggest that people consider not the price of the software, but the total cost of ownership of the system. So we need to consider the system, not the software. And if we consider that total cost of ownership, the price we pay and the benefits we reap, then it's a totally different story. And in 90% of the cases, a properly implemented system reached started to bring profits even after the first project. Second part of that myth being complexity or too complicated. And here it's important to consider the level of development, of evolution of a company or a business implementing the system. I managed to sell Primavera to mid businesses in Ukraine. And Oracle awarded me a sort of Oscar for that achievement. It's an internal Oracle Oscar. The reason is that the scope of middle-sized businesses in Ukraine equal to private entrepreneurs in the US. But it's not what matters here. The most important thing here is not the business size, but the capability maturity model. If a company or a business has reached mid-level, by that I mean that they use the share work within at least one project and have formalized processes, then implementation of Primavera is a good thing for them. It makes sense. Myth number 3, scale being the key factor for software choice. Yes, the dimension, the size, the scale is really important. Because Primavera is actually a special type of information system. It's an information system that supports decision making. Supports decision making. I would like to stress it once again. In other words, the more information you put into your database, the more analysis, the more types of analysis you can get out from it. And that increases the probability of your decisions being accurate and good. But it's not the size of a project or a company that is decisive when selecting, when choosing Primavera for your activities. The key factor is that there is a business owner, or a group of business owners or decision makers who understand that they are losing manageability. They are losing ways and capability to manage the whole thing. And by the way, it's very difficult to do. But that's a very rare case. It used to be a very rare case. And for the first 5 to 7 years, all Primavera implementations in Ukraine were done because international companies wanted to expand into Ukraine and required Primavera implementation. And only in 2005 or 2006, we started seeing emerging Ukrainian domestic companies with that required level of maturity. And we started implementing Primavera in those companies. Very briefly about the functionality of Oracle Primavera. And you don't see any references to the size in that description. But I would like to mention once again, Primavera is a tool for you if you understand schedule as a management tool, and not just a paper that is printed out and hung on the wall in director's office and just becomes obsolete in 3 weeks. And myth number 4. It's very sad prospects of the Ukrainian market. This morning, I I came here, by the way, just before that I was on a business trip. And I googled some information. So for 2.5 since 2.5 years, 426 so-called reform offices have been created by the Ukrainian governments in different cities and municipalities, and it means that a lot of people are employed now, and there are efforts in that direction to reform our economy. And there are a lot of projects that are financed or supported by government, by authorities for millions of dollars. And by the way, the President administration and the Cabinet of Ministers and agencies, governmental agencies, there are 20. They have 25 reform offices. Dozens of largest state-owned companies have recovered a very long and deep recession or loss, recovered from loss, and now they can cover their costs or even bring profits. And by the way, a part of the profits remains within the company and used for development purposes. And that's a crucial thing, because previously all the profits were siphoned out of companies and put to the government, to the budget of the country. Sean, it's for Oracle. To persuade Oracle to be more attentive. And there are quite many technological startups and new markets opening. For instance, new green technologies and waste processing and disposal, green concrete and road construction. Putting it all together, we have the opportunity to enter this river for the second time. Because everything that bears the name reform, it's about projects. Projects mean that people need to be trained. Business processes need to be formalized. And it's implementation of specialized software. We've been doing it for 15 years in Ukraine already. We have been so to say, a boutique company, because our customers recommended us to each other and handed us over and over. And so far, from the beginning of this year, we launched 4 projects, and I'm running out of people. One big project in Kazakhstan. So we are here in this country. Oracle is really huge, but we know how to work with them. That's why we are always open to any suggestions and ideas. Thank you for your attention. And as far as I understand, we'll have questions during the panel session, right? How closely are you coordinated with PMSoft Moscow? Because we have a contract with them and not with Ukraine. There is no political connotation to that question, because we have extended support, and we simply wanted to, but we didn't deal with the Ukrainian office until now. So we are one organization. That's very simple. So we are the same. We are PMSoft Ukraine is a 100% affiliate company of PMSoft. So if you have any questions, any issues, you can call us. Any other questions? Thank you.
Well, as Pavel said, there's also PMSoft Kazakhstan, and that's they basically, just like On Track, we have offices in Prague and Kiev now and Moscow. It's just regional support and taxation. PMSoft Moscow is the leading supporter and sponsor of AACE Russia. PMSoft Kazakhstan is the leading supporter of Central Asia, which Ukraine is part of Central Asia. For just that became about because of geopolitical. As we like to say, that is what it is. Okay. There we go, got it back. Okay. So this presentation is basically, I'm going to talk and basically continue on from what Naum started. It's basically a discussion of funding and okay, I need somebody who's good. How do I turn timing off on a Russian keyboard? We thought we turned it off, but it doesn't seem to be. Just turn the timing, just turn timing off. As you can see, we have lots of nice little logos here. AACE, College Performance Management, which used to be part of PMI, is an independent earned value association. FIATech, which works with the Construction Industry Institute, CII, the Guild of Project Controls, and PMI. We work basically with all of these associations to basically keep a standardization of training and process. So it's a good representation of most of the major industry institutes. So basically what I like to call it is I basically try to address it as the new realities. What I'm going to try to focus on is discuss the new, as I said, the new realities. Because of what I discussed prior, that we have all these changes and all this industry growth and all these mergers, it is changing the way that us old graybeards do project management, project controls from the way we did it 20 years ago. So as such, when we fund projects, and one of the major things that's happening on projects is a lack of funding. What we're seeing in the industry is that there are many new challenges that we experience. And we're seeing a change in the trend where EPC contractors were brought on and totally ran a project, and clients had their own project management teams. That used to be. So in general, a little bit more about me. As I said, I've been with AACE for 25 years. I have been a member of the American Association of Construction Educators. I've taught at the university level because I believe that the industry has gone away from mentoring. They've gone away from donations of software. I'm a member of ISEC, which is the International Cost Engineering Council, which if you're a member of AACE, you're automatically part of it, but I'm the marketing director for Europe. And I'm a chartered quantity surveyor. RICS has a joint relationship with AACE, but they basically focus on after the budget and planning. They're basically focusing on the collection of data for the project. They don't do budgeting, they don't do estimating. They collect the data that makes sure that your project's accurate. That's the difference of AACE, RICS. RICS collects data. So as PMI teaches you the theory of project management, not the competency of it, what you have is, by being a member of all five, it gives you the five pillars of project management, project controls. What we try to focus on is in capital projects, there's a great amount of complexity. For clients and owners to be successful, they have to see visibility, and the reporting needs to be at a level of detail that they can make decisions and not spend their time just reading. And this requires a framework or a pattern of which to do, and for AACE we call it the TCM, Total Cost Management Framework. And what we see on projects now is because, as I said, you have so many mergers, we have basically a very complex system worldwide that is impacting all of our projects. And as such, that basically puts a strain on the organization and basically increases your risk. So basically the challenges that we receive is that generally on the projects that I've been brought onto, there's a lack of alignment. And generally what we also see is on projects that don't enforce or empower urban value management, we see a lack of visibility. So they see the top, but they don't see what's going on beneath. And by the time a problem happens, you're unable to respond. What people ask me most of the time is what is the biggest issue on lack of alignment? It's communication. Poor communication in written reports. People sit next to each other and email each other versus getting up, walking, and asking a direct question. Lyazzat was 2 cubicles down from me. So why am I going to, when I had questions for her, we had analysis issues. Why am I going to send, I send an email for backup or, information. But why do I want to ask her a question when I can get up, walk over, and talk to her? At the beginning of the project when I got there, 90% of the people were in an area the size of this room and never got up and talked to each other. They wouldn't even, procurement was a cube, a little wall over, and they wouldn't even, they would send an email, they wouldn't talk to you. That, by the time we got done with the project, everybody would go and talk and communicate. One of the most interesting conversations is our project manager, who was on the project a few months before, about 4 months before I got on, and he replaced the prior manager. The project manager who took over the project, he was number 8 or 9, was that? The prior project managers had run the project into 18 months behind schedule, $3 million over budget, and were so focused on their idea of communication was to have change order board meetings that went on for a couple hours, and if the change order wasn't perfectly written, would send it back, thus delaying the process. Piss poor communication. First thing Dan did when he got on, and why he and I got along so well, everything was communication. Change orders were 30 seconds. Why is there a change? Basic write-up. Communication can slow you down or it can expedite you. You got to take it at the correct level. So what we focus on is that there's a level of influence, and there's generally 7 or 8 steps of a project from development to completion. Thus, that during this, our biggest ability to influence a project is at the beginning, and that's where we can increase or decrease a project generally by 75%. So we tend to analyze or develop the project, plan it, and at this phase of basic data, this is where we value engineer and make the determination of technology. So as such, if we try to value engineer, by the time we've completed the engineering, our ability to make a change is economically not feasible. And so we generally try to employ the front-end loading method by basically embracing these changes of technology or development of the project at the beginning, because our ability to influence is here and decreases as the project goes along. As such, most of us are familiar with this traditional solution. We got people in the field, we got an engineer in another place, we got a third partner there and a second partner, and then trying to interface the schedule, finance, procurement, engineering, and change management. You could basically have up to 68 integration points, more than 20 different types of corporations, and this can cost you about $8 million on a traditional $500 million project. So the reality of what we see right now is we have continual shifting priorities. We have continual issues on environmental, regulatory. There is basically what we call a shifting workforce, but basically it's really come down, there's a lack of trained people. The gap between entry-level 5-year and 15-year people is the largest it's ever been. There's no mid-level experience. Because of the increase of technology, project management, and overhead, they generally expect us to do more with less. In other words, basically I'm supposed to do, because the software is better, I'm supposed to try to do with 3 or 4 people what used to take me 8 to 12. But the analysis hasn't changed. It's just the software makes it look prettier. So as such, we've got execution plans, procedures, cost, schedule, performance systems, risk, change, procurement, contracts, and auditing. And we're asking a software, which is based on human input, to analyze. Software can't analyze. People analyze. Software stores data. So what we try to do is with AACE, we're trying to give guidelines and recommended procedures. So this is a standard estimating recommended procedure. This is the number of the procedure. This is the year it was first adopted. So in this procedure, we have estimating. We have 5 classes of estimate from concept to project completion. We review the maturity level, i.e., what's the status and the number of documents that are completed. That determines the estimate level, and within that has an accuracy range that you can apply contingency. And as such, within this estimate part, we can look at the value, and this will basically allow us to apply contingency. Now, for those of you who are used to the Russian and Ukrainian system, norms and standards. The major difference between norms and standards in Western estimating, beyond the fact that most of the norms and standards haven't been updated in 16 years, they've only been factored for inflation. The hardest thing I have with Russian EPC contractors is they're so focused on norms and standards, they cannot understand that in the West, every company is different. Even within a company, different divisions have different rates, different calculations of contingency, and sometimes even different codings within a company. One of the biggest questions I usually get in the comparison is I'm asked how much a project usually costs. In a traditional Western estimate, unlike the norms and standards, generally there's about 10% is the initial project and management. Another 10% is usually in what we call construction indirects or temporary facilities. At max, you're probably about 20% of your cost is your construction labor. So that not a lot you can influence there. Leaving you with about 60% of your cost is material and procurement. So as you can see, by the time you're about 50% expended on usually the time of your project, you have already committed usually about 70% of your cost. And one of the, it's pretty traditional, whether the size of it doesn't matter what size the project is. This is pretty much an average on most projects when they're evaluated. One of the things we look at is that how do we consolidate that? And the system that is most popular in name right now is earned value management. To many people, earned value management is a US, UK, Australian government mandated program, and they do not feel that it applies to commercial projects. And this is very inaccurate at this time. And the other misconception is that earned value is only used on big dollar projects. It can't be used on small projects. And again, that's a fallacy. What earned value does is it focuses on 4 pillars. How you can look at your risk, how you have a framework, how you are able to be proactive in execution, and that it's global. It's based on currency. It's not based on dollars or hours. Currency. Yeah, it's not just based on just dollars. It's based on multiple currencies. I have implemented earned value on oil refineries, to hotels, to casinos, to bars, to government labs. Doesn't matter. It's been implemented and used on every one of the projects, and that's why I like to make one statement. In 30 years of doing this, over $40 billion worth of projects that I've managed, I've never been over budget or behind schedule because I've used earned value. It didn't mean the price didn't change. It didn't mean the schedule didn't change. It meant that I had control, that I could give information to management to make a logical decision, good or bad. My management, my clients may not have liked what I told them, but they knew and understood where it came from. Similarly, I may not like it when Lyazzat gives me that great bad news, but I know where it came from, so I can make the best decision I can with the information. So what do I look for, and what does earned value do for me, and why, and what kind of softwares I utilize is to focus, because I have owners. I have a project management owner representative. I have the EPC contractors. I have procurement, and I have the ability to tie it all together. In the IT world, they call it a DMZ. And so what we look for is what we call the differentiator. You need to be able to embrace the ability to be aggressive, but the ability to have finesse. But at the same time, we need to understand that we embrace an organization, and within that organization, it's like an assembly line of what I do feeds the next person. And what I ask you to do is to look, there are generally 5 maturity levels of your organization. We have the ad hoc, the managed, the defined, the measured, and the optimized organization. And most organizations and advisory companies, when they come and look at your organization, you may use earned value, but if you're using spreadsheets, you're considered an ad hoc organization. So in a series of combination reviews by all the organizations and us getting together and combining the data, the most interesting perspective is that most organizations, the big ones, Bechtel, Fluor, Worley Parsons, all are usually at a grade 3, a defined level. They are not optimized. And the reason why is most of the major companies, when they get to earned value management, very few embrace it through their entire company. Their government division may use earned value, but their commercial division still stays on the traditional hours approach. Out of analysis of about 50 companies and clients worldwide that was done, where they answered survey, one of the few that was totally optimized that we would say was Chevron. And the reason why the people at Chevron said that they're optimized, because they do everything, is they liquidated much of their internal project controls and went into project managing organizations. So they sub out a great deal amount of the work. So one of the things we try to do at OnTrack that we've learned is that basically we're trying to separate ourselves into 2 divisions. We've reviewed, and most of our clients are worried about, the assurance of the program, how they can continually develop their assets, how do they manage their assets, and how do they eventually dispose of the assets. And so what we've done is we've gone backwards. We're embracing what we used to do 20 years ago, when Primavera used to be Primavera by themselves. The software stood alone, and then they had their representative or consulting division that stood alone. So we have the software division. My project management division uses that software, but we focus on we don't make people change their software or have to use our software. Gives us flexibility to help our clients find the best solution and deal with most contractors. So we try to focus on an organizational change theory. Engagement, communication, alignment, training, readiness to sustain, and a vision. And what it does is it basically gets people to sponsor. It gets usually traditionally people buy into it, and it creates a definition. Now, one of the issues that we are seeing in the industry because of the utilization more of PMOs is basically we have issues on credibility. We have more cost overruns. We are seeing lost opportunities. The industry is seeing an increase of schedule overruns, failure to execute, job loss, and people aren't coming back, and a lot more litigation. To compensate for that, one of the things we've been recommending is that we call it a gate system or a gate review, a project execution methodology, a phase system. Most of these are now mandatorily applied in companies to prevent projects from going over. So generally, I have a gate review, a risk review, and what we call a project definition rating index review. And we do that, and the reason why is the risk establishes contingency and allowances. The PDRI was developed by CII, a series of universities, primarily the University of Texas. They have a 3-section checklist of about 80 items with the score, and the lower the score, it has been proven by analysis of data that projects, the lower the score, have less issues with change and cost and schedule. And with those two, with the risk and the PDRI, we have a logical ability to look at the gate review and decide whether to move forward or not. So we embrace what we call the track, that's why what track is: take, measure, revise, assimilate, conform, and keep improving. So you can see we actually thought about the name. And it's been around the company's been around for 26 years. So generally, the recommendations is, to be upfront, have an understanding, get your workforce involved, and deal with management. Everybody does everything in Excel. In a review done by a company, the top 10 EPC contractors, all of them had a major overrun in the past 10, 15 years of projects that went over budget where estimates were bad by $150 million on billion-dollar projects. In other words, in their estimates that were over $1 billion projects, all of them had a project fail estimate of $150 million error because they used Excel. The first time I was supposed to come to Ukraine, I had my visa, had my tickets, was halfway, had flown from Las Vegas to London, and got diverted at the airport by a vice president and flown from London to Saudi Arabia. They had done an estimate in Excel. Somebody typed over a macro, and they lost $150 million the day the estimate was open. No, an American company. Somebody's shaking his head. He knows the project. So I went from the potentially living in Kiev in 1999 to the joys of living in a man camp on the coast of Saudi Arabia for a year, fixing an estimate. And to really top it off, because I was a year late, I got sent to Slavudic instead of staying in Kiev. So, you ask me why I don't like Excel? Wouldn't that make you not like Excel? And 4 years later, I was on my way to Moscow, and another company did the same thing, and I wound up being sent to Iraq for a year. So what we try to do is we try to focus on the fact that whatever system you run, we try to focus on trying to have a dashboard where all the information is in a central location so that it can be accessed by everybody at the same time versus a single person in an Excel sheet by themselves. Because how many people here have been sent an Excel spreadsheet in your time, and it's linked to another spreadsheet, or somebody has copied a formula, and it's when they copied it, their hard drive is the formula, and you can't work the program. One of the worst problems we had in Kazakhstan is they would send us from corporate Excel spreadsheets with their drives or something on, and we're 10 hours ahead of them. So as we're finishing our day, Lyazzat and I would have to, Lyazzat many times is in the office 7, 8 o'clock at night trying to get a hold of somebody who is just starting their day. It's poor communication. So we try to basically focus on, there's 4 ways that we can help you, or 4 ways that we recommend. Do a maturity model of your system. Have a standard process and procedures module that can be implemented on multiple projects, not just by division. Train the people, not just on software, not just on company procedures, but give them overall training, and create a project management office system utilizing optimal software, not Excel. And on conforming a software, how many people here use Microsoft Project? Okay, we have one honest person, two honest people, anybody, three honest people. Is it a good scheduling system? It works, but you have to look at the fact that it calculates different than Oracle Primavera. It calculates different than Telos Asta. So conforming means understand how it's calculating its logic. So what we have done is I have architected OnTrack to basically be what I wanted for a software, and I gave it to an IT company who took my ideas and put it into paper. I can take any one of these features from Microsoft Project to Oracle, from Lotus Note email to Microsoft Outlook. Whatever the system is, we basically can communicate and put it into a cloud and project portal interface. So if you talk to our software side, they're going to focus all like that and try to sell you software. You talk to my division, we basically say, I don't care about the software. We're going to use it because it's our best interface tool, but we can interface with every contractor, every client, every regulatory that needs information. And there's 5 things that you can come with this, out of this, is basically if you understand your requirements, you understand that not one platform fits everybody, but you have to understand the full platform. If you have that architecture, that's how we can get planning and commitment and funding. The most important thing that I stress on successful projects is training and execution. If the people are trained right, they execute right. If they're not trained right, it's the best intention and the worst results.
I'm working together with Sean at OnTrack Engineering, assisting in delivering trainings. And recently, we completed a project in Kazakhstan that we would like to share today. The same as Naum, I prepared my presentation in English, but I'll present in Russian. And first of all, before going to the case study itself, I would like to clarify the notion of earned value management as it is, and speak about which implementation steps are necessary. This system is used for projects supported by the U.S. government, funded by the U.S. government. There used to be a limit. If your project exceeded $20 million in budget, it was mandatory to implement earned value management. But now this limit has been abolished. So any projects running with support of U.S. government require earned value management implementation. EVM is used both in governmental and in commercial projects, not only in U.S. but also in Europe, in Central Asia, and in Russia. Kazakhstan being one of the countries where EVM is implemented. And it's important to know that EVM has 32 criteria. If we meet all of them, then it's virtually guaranteed that the project will be completed on budget and on time. EVM gives you answers to the following questions: where are you currently in your project, where are you heading, where you were, and with which set of data you will complete the project. Here are the 3 books that Sean mentioned, and they can be used to implement and study and train people on EVM. And we start with the first 4 criteria, and they all have to do with organization. Question number 1: what has to be done? It's the scope, the work, the scope of the project. Based on it, we create a work breakdown structure, and the detail level of WBS depends on the level of control required for this specific project by this specific project manager. Question number 2, criteria number 2, it's organizational breakdown structure. Those are all organizational units involved in the project, starting from HR, accounting, finance, design, capital expenditures, procurement, and so on. And number 3, it's WBS and OBS are combined into a responsibility assignment matrix, and that's where you can start managing, controlling your budget and controlling the earned value. And 1.4, work authorization, it has to deal with the fact that EVM is mandated by the US government for the project that it supports. And with that document, it provides the authorization to the person defined in the responsibility assignment matrix. For instance, Mr. Sidorov is responsible for procuring the reactor, and this document confirms that the government authorizes this person to do that job. Second set of criteria deals with planning, scheduling, and budgeting. We said while reviewing the previous slide that we have a certain matrix with which combines WBS with OBS, and for each person defined in that matrix, we should have a plan, a schedule, and a budget. Going into more details, it's about tracking and managing the critical path, schedules, milestones, deliverables for each milestone, and performance measurement baseline, and a comparison with that baseline, comparing the current situation with that baseline, risk assessment, risk mitigation, control accounts, cost elements, contingency and management reserves. And all those steps have to be done before the project starts. And here comes the favorite part of all companies, it's accounting. In Kazakhstan, we use 1S software to do so. I suppose that it's also commonly used in Ukraine, but it doesn't cover all the needs for accounting and collecting data. That's why many companies use other systems for data collection, be it Excel or other software that Sean mentioned, and other comparable software tools to collect actual data about direct costs, indirects, fringes, and so on. And we need a single system that enables us to collect data and track information. So it's very important, it's actually crucial to collect all the actuals. Even taking this conference as an example, it's important to account for 3 additional bottles of water that we require, or 3 additional chairs that are brought in. Why? Because EVM suggests attributing costs, direct costs, indirect costs, to certain units of productive work. For instance, 1 meter of pipe was arranged. So we built a pipeline, and we planned on spending $100 per meter of that pipe, but actually we came up with $80 or $150, and all of those additional fringe costs and indirect costs also contribute to the final price of that meter of pipe. So that's why it's very important to know all the cost elements and know until which level of detail we need to go, how deep we want to dig and to collect data in order to be able to know how many of resources or money and other things were employed were used to do the job necessary. For instance, just try to think about how much you spend on surveying within your projects, and so it will just purely on surveying. It shows the importance of collecting actuals and being absolutely clear about our spendings to be able to align our plans with the real situation. And then the project starts, and we collect data, we analyze data, and create management reports. It's section 4. We start tracking how much value we really earned with the work done. We know that for that meter of pipe, we required that much time and that much money. We use the reporting system, various types of reports, for instance, reports to customers, to track what we planned and what we really did, what we earned, what part of the value we really earned, and enables us to intervene and to adjust. We have a certain approved budget, say 100 million. But life happens, changes happen, and we understand that, and with devaluation and all sorts of things, we understand that we will complete the project not with 100 million, but with 120 million. And we track those changes, and we recalculate the total cost of the project and create the so-called estimated completion. Since 1956, many formulas were developed, and they really work. And by applying those procedures and processes, you are able to recalculate, update your plan, and understand what you're going to have when the project ends. Section 5 is about change control. There will be many changes of technical nature and schedule changes, and we need to register them, as Sean said, and keep track on them in order to be able to act on them. Here we can see the project management cycle from a slightly different perspective. Program manager needs equals top management needs, and so it starts with organizing work, the work structure and teams, developing a realistic plan of the work scope, budget, schedule, work authorization, and then as we go, as we implement the project, we control changes, we report performance, we understand the variances that are inevitable, we take corrective actions, and we are able to forecast the final cost and schedule. And this slide highlights the need to have a single source of data, the single place where you register and store data, relational database that encompasses everything, estimating, planning, procurement, timesheets, financial aspects. So you need some tool to keep track of the progress. And let's move on to Kazakhstan projects. This project is unique in Central Asia. It was an EPCM contract for building a central reference laboratory for biological threat reduction. And it was based on an agreement between two countries, the US and Kazakhstan. From Kazakhstan, this initiative was supported by the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Agriculture. So it's about finding cures and solutions for epidemic and pandemic threats such as swine flu and Ebola and animal diseases. This project started in 2009. The design was completed by the end of 2012, so that you understand the level of document readiness, preparedness. Initially, this project was planned to be built in a city center, and there were many problems because people living in that city were against it. They were scared of all of those terrible diseases. That is why the project had several changes, and different other locations, geographical locations had to be found. And in 2013, a new project was completed to be built on another site. And the first contract that ICON, that company, received was for 45 million. And that point, second IBR, I would like to give some explanations on that. So you have your initial base schedule. You're an EPC company, and you think that you need 2 to 3 years to complete the project. But then there are design changes and all sorts. You get new design, and you see that you will need 5 years. And that's what the change means. So in 2013, in this project, a new so baseline was received, and that's the beginning. That's the beginning point when you start reporting on accomplishing the project. So in 2009, the estimated budget was 45 million, but in 2013 it was already 120 million. A lot of money had been spent by then, and a new budget was required to complete the project. And then equipment procurement starts, because for that laboratory, for different diseases, different types of equipment were necessary. And then the EPC received the so-called cure notice. It is a notice issued by the US government, and it says that the project is seriously ill and requires immediate treatment. Because well, it's obvious why this cure notice was necessary in this case, and there are two options: either to get better and take the situation under control and provide accurate figures in terms of budget and timeline, or the contract is cancelled and given to another company. So by the end of 2014, at the beginning of 2015, we started seriously implementing EVM. It was the it was stipulated by the contract from the very beginning, but we were not successful in implementing EVM, and within 8 months we had 2 audits by DCMA, but the result was not good. So there was no positive evidence of functioning EVM. So, and 2 major reasons why we failed. The audits were the following. First, our responsible people, responsible according to the responsibility assignment matrix, either didn't know what to do, or didn't know the actual situation, and didn't know the full scope. And just one example, a manager responsible for procuring equipment said, okay, we have a contract. The delivery date was initially January, but they have some problems at the customs, so maybe we will receive it in March. But actually, March goes away and nothing happens, and we receive the equipment by August. And that happened to various extent with all the managers who were not aware of the current situations and didn't know how to keep track of what was happening. And reason number 2 was data discrepancies, because the amounts of money that we really spent were not in alignment with what we required from the US government and what we had in our accounting system or data collection systems. And for the US government, it's crucial because they count every cent. So after that, the project management was completely changed, and we started implementing EVM seriously. The scope of work was correctly broken down and assigned to people, and the responsible people were assigned in such a way that if they met all the criteria, they were in charge, they were put in charge of that scope of work. If not, they were changed. Old people went, new people came in the middle of the project. You can imagine that it was a significant restructuring, but after successful implementation of EVM, we met all the 32 criteria and established a reporting system. In our case, in that project, it was cost point, collected actuals, and the first 3 areas were completely automated. And only the 4th area, that is analysis and change management, required human involvement. So, and when we received that cure notice in 2015, our full, complete understanding of the budget upon completion was 228 million. We completed the project within 2 years, and our final actual cost was 228 million. The difference between the 225 and 230 was 4.5 million, and it was caused by the additional requirement by US government to purchase spare parts for laboratory operation. Actually, you see that the integrated budget with approved changes was 230 million, but we completed the project with 228 million, so we saved 2 million. So, and you should take into account that within those 2 final years of the project, a devaluation happened in Kazakhstan, and all the prices were upside down, and but still, even under such circumstances, we were able to complete the project on time and on budget with working EVM. And now I would like to share the obstacles and challenges that we face when implementing EVM in that project. It was very difficult to set up actual collection of actual data. The reason was that our accounting was done in US, and we had 10 hours time difference when we finished work, and then in several hours they started working. So and our software and our accounting systems were not aligned, but we found a solution. We established a very clear cost element structure, and we kept challenge number 2. It was very frequent change of control account managers. They either left or were fired because they didn't satisfy, didn't meet the requirements, and it happened throughout the whole project. And every week and every month we had trainings for new people. That was very important. That was crucial because CAMs, control account managers, had to understand what is required from them, what they need to do, and how to do it. Second challenge was that our construction contractor, a Turkish company, were not transparent in terms of their pricing. For instance, they came to us and said it's a change request because we cannot drill here, we need to drill here because there are cables running here that you didn't consider in your drawings, and that change will cost you 50,000. Why 50,000? For which reasons? So maybe it's the method that Turkish company was using, or it's only the way of operating in Kazakhstan, I don't know, but the real problem was that it was not possible to understand and track the changes in price of the contractor's work. And so that was the initial status and how EVM helped us. When a certain change was necessary, we could take a look at certain specific cost elements, and we see that drilling already occurred within this project 8 times, and it was linked to such and such costs, and for instance, how many people were necessary to do that, how many resources, and what was the cost of that job, and that's one more that's why I mentioned many times it's so important to collect actuals, because they help you to predict your cost situation and calculate yourself the price of changes in work performed by your contractors. Next point, overruns. Our contract currency was US dollars. During the project, the Kazakh currency tenge depreciated, and local services, translation and legal services and construction supervision got cheaper. So on the one hand, we had some overruns in purchasing equipment from abroad, but on the other hand, we could compensate it by saving money on local services obtained locally. And that's EVM gives you very good tools to see all the detailed cost elements and reallocate your budgets and compensate and use saving potentials. Next problem, issue, it was the software that we used for collecting actuals. We used Delta Cobra, and it was very slow. It was so slow, and if we applied a change, it was not possible to cancel it and to go back to the previous status, and that's where Excel helped us out. Sean and Pavel mentioned today that it's not using Excel is not the optimal way. So for each project, which is individual, you should really find a good tool, the right tool to do the job that you need, because collecting actuals, it's really important when implementing EVM, and the software that you choose should really meet your needs. Internal audits, you need to be prepared that if you're working under governmental supervision, you need to allocate time to undergo these audits. Every month we had those audits, and we had to provide proof for every cent and all the authorization documents issued by the US government and the Kazakh government. I mentioned IBR, integrated baseline review. So because we needed it in our project. I already said that in the middle of project we just had we calculated an integrated a new baseline, set a new baseline, and in order to do so, you need to first freeze all the actuals that you had previously and account for all the budget that was spent before that. We reset the point, and we use the IMS integrated master schedule. I mentioned audits by DCMA. They are performed by the standard. They are performed by using this standard issued in 2007, and for each criteria from 5 areas, we receive results, and those results can be, there are 3 options. Either we meet standards, or we don't meet them, we do not demonstrate our compliance with the standards, or we get an action item, and it means that we must take corrective actions to meet the standard. And being a huge fan of EVM, I would like to conclude my presentation by saying again that EVM is a crucial part of project management, project control that can be used both for government and commercial projects. And the only difference is the reporting system. In one case for government, it's more reporting, more bureaucracy. With commercial, it's less bureaucracy, less reporting, and trainings are essential. And your system, and especially software, you should approach it with care and caution and select the tool that really meets your needs. Thank you.
We're going to do a slight change. I'm going to introduce Michelle Smith from the U.S. Commercial Services. She's going to talk about OPIC financing. One of the things we're going to do is we're creating a link for everybody who's attended that'll be registered. So we'll have the videos, the translations, the presentations, and she has some information about OPIC that'll be on there. But we ask, it's for attendees, so please don't share it and copy it to 200 people and register it in the Kiev Post, please. But so I'll let she'll talk. There's no presentation. She's just going to give you a nice brief introduction about the funding, and it runs into Naum. And then after that, we'll do the panel, or just a Q&A session.
Окей, спасибо огромное за ваше внимание сегодня. Я буду говорить по-английски, потому что термины финансовые, может быть, я буду сделать ошибки с ними. So, чтобы быть более аккуратной, я использую наш прекрасный переводчик. So I just said that I could speak Russian, but because of the financial terms that I would be using, it's better to be accurate and use the interpreter. So my name is Michelle Smith. I am the commercial attaché at the U.S. Embassy here in Kiev. I work in the U.S. Commercial Service, which some of you may already know of. It is part of the U.S. Department of Commerce. And within the Department of Commerce, there's the International Trade Administration. And our mission is to increase the volume of U.S. exports to countries around the world. Mm-hmm. And when we work in U.S. embassies, we also represent a few other U.S. government agencies that provide financing. Mm-hmm. One of those is called the Trade and Development Administration, and they fund feasibility studies when it would result in significant U.S. exports. The second agency is the U.S. Export-Import Bank. Mm-hmm. Currently, they have suspended their activities in Ukraine, so maybe next year we'll make a presentation about the Exim Bank. But they provide financing and guarantees for buyers of U.S. exports. And then the final agency is the Overseas Private Investment Corporation. And I actually used to work at the Overseas Private Investment Corporation, which I think is why I'm here today. And the OPIC is open in Ukraine and actively seeking projects. So just a little bit about OPIC. It was actually an organization that started under the Marshall Plan in Germany. Because at that time, U.S. companies were very nervous about going to Germany and helping rebuild Germany without some kind of insurance from the U.S. government. Because at that time, people weren't sure how stable the country was politically. People weren't sure how stable the currency was. So the U.S. government decided to develop a product called political risk insurance that would attract U.S. companies to Western Europe to help rebuild it. So this is how the whole idea of political risk insurance in the world was born, and it was the precursor to the Overseas Private Investment Corporation. So today, the Overseas OPIC is a standalone organization. How many of you have heard of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development? Yes, it's the largest investor in Ukraine. Well, the EBRD and OPIC really resemble one another. They are government organizations that give loans for projects in different countries. And they tend to be very conservative. So if you've tried to work with the EBRD here and you understand their requirements, the requirements of OPIC are going to be very similar. So OPIC is slightly different than the EBRD, though, because it's what we call a bilateral financial institution. That means that the Ukraine and the United States signed a treaty that allows OPIC to do business here. And one of the main criteria of OPIC is that to be eligible for any of its products, you must have a U.S. partner. So OPIC operates in more than 100 countries this way. And in each situation, there is some American partner in these projects. And OPIC has 3 basic types of financial products. The first one is political risk insurance, which I talked about a little already. The second is long-term project financing. And the third is equity financing. The third one is for U.S. funds, so it's really not applicable here right now. For instance, Horizon Capital. Who knows about Horizon Capital? Horizon Capital is supported by OPIC. So I will really talk a little bit about the first 2 products, political risk insurance and long-term finance. And the reason I would like to talk a little bit about political risk insurance is because I believe it may help you attract a U.S. partner. Unfortunately, in the U.S. right now, the perceptions about Ukraine are not always positive. You're very lucky that you have an organization here that can help you find partners, and when they do, you might want to let them know about political risk insurance. And I can give you an example of why. Political risk insurance covers 3 types of risks. Political violence. So a lot of people watch the news here and saw the revolution, and they worry about that. Expropriation by the government. And currency inconvertibility. Okay? So expropriation has happened in Ukraine. And until just 2 days ago, you had significant currency restrictions on dividends here. Dividendov. So if a U.S. company wanted to partner with you, but they had these concerns, they could purchase political risk insurance, and that would help them feel safer partnering with you. And really, in essence, the United States government also becomes their partner. So I will stop there. If you would like more information about insurance, it will be in the presentation that you will have access to. But don't assume that your potential partner knows about this insurance. OPIC is a tiny, tiny organization in the United States. And many companies don't even know that it exists. So if you know about it and you tell them, it might be the first time they hear about it. And so then the second product I think that is really probably the most interesting to you today is long-term financing. So OPIC very similar to the EBRD, finances projects. So this is different than corporate finance, which is a loan given to a company based on the health of the company. In project financing, they're looking at the new project you're doing, how much cash flow that project will create, and whether it's enough cash flow to pay back the loan. And there are different kinds of projects that they will consider. One is a greenfield, a s nulia. The other is an expansion project. The third is a franchise, U.S. franchise. And the final is a privatization. And then when they provide financing, their financing can be used for a variety of project expenses. First is feasibility studies, land and construction, working capital, administrative expenses, and equipment. It's important, though, it can't be equipment only. That's Exim Bank. And they cannot compete with Exim Bank. And so basically, if you and your American partner that you will have help finding come to the U.S. government, you definitely need to come with a solid business plan. And you also need to demonstrate that you are already a successful business. And the easiest way to do that is to show 3 years of audited financial statements by international standards. And also, the project you're proposing definitely has to meet several policy criteria. It must be an environmentally sound project. And your project must meet international standards related to labor rights and human rights. And also, the project cannot have any negative impacts on the U.S. economy. So I'll give you an example of a project that may be good until the last point. So U.S. poultry production is very competitive in the world. They export everywhere in the world. So usually poultry projects in other countries cannot be financed by OPIC. So OPIC can provide financing for up to $250 million. I can tell you that very rarely happens. For instance, a good example of a project like that was the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline. Ceyhan. So this is a strategically important project to the United States. Normally, the project size is $100 million or less. But OPIC's largest priority is actually to support medium-sized companies. And that means that they usually like to provide loans around $10 million. And for this size of projects, they have expedited processing procedures. It's still a government agency, and expedited means at least 1 year. I'm just being honest with you so you can plan ahead. So I would like to give you an example of how much financing OPIC could provide and how much equity they would expect in a project. So let's say the total expenses for your project from the beginning to the end were $10 million. Of that amount, OPIC could provide financing of $5 million. Of the remaining $5 million, in equity, they want to see 25% from a U.S. investor. So that's $1.25 million from American, 3.75 in equity from the Ukrainian side, and $5 million in a loan. That's for a greenfield project. If it's an expansion project, sometimes they can give more in debt financing. And remember I talked about political risk insurance earlier? The political risk insurance would apply to the US 1.25 million in this example. But the benefits of having the US government in your project, really apply to everyone. So if you find an American partner and you meet these general criteria, usually the best way to approach OPIC is to provide them with a project summary. And maybe after this I will provide our partners here with guidelines on how to write a good 5-page summary for them. Because it's better, I think, to get an answer in the beginning rather than spending a lot of time putting together a large, package of documents. So it's good to come with the summary and then continue only if they say, yes, this is interesting. But assuming that they're interested in your project, the next step would be to complete an application, submit a full business plan, as well as your audited financial statements. And then the due diligence process begins. It usually takes at least 6 months before it goes to something called the credit committee. If it passes the credit committee, then it goes to legal due diligence. And this part can take a long time because it depends on the applicant's ability to provide the legal department with all of the necessary documents they need. So in my experience when I worked at OPIC, that usually took at least 4 to 6 months. But after that, disbursement goes pretty quickly. So, but that's a good case scenario. When OPIC works with people, really the thing that makes this review process, due diligence process, the longest is the applicant's ability to provide proof and documentation when needed. But the good news is that once you go through this very long and hard process with OPIC, they really like repeat customers. And of course they won't provide loans for a decade because their goal is to help a country develop. They won't provide it for like 10 years. They will not provide financing over a long period of time because they're not a commercial bank. Okay. Извините. И что я хотела сказать, что они не повторят, как заемы с клиентами, как снова и снова, потому что если страна здоровая и если они смогли бы брать кредит в банке коммерческом, тогда они не будут дальше работать. Do we need to translate the other way? Okay. So basically what I'm saying is that they're not going to compete with the private sector. But they will give, но они будут, может быть, задавать заемы несколько раз, если вы хотели бы, например, расширять ваш первый проект. So sometimes they will give, a loan a second or a third time if you're trying to expand the original project. Okay, you see, сейчас I'll go back. But поскольку она начинала этого сказать, какие термины, уверена, это самое интересное, и я забыла говорить об этом. And I said, the most interesting thing for you is probably the terms, and she brought that up. So now I'm only going to speak English. The basic terms of loans are from 5 to 10 years in length. And the interest rates depend on many things, the risk of the project, the risk of the factor. But generally, the rates are very attractive because they're based on U.S. Treasury bills. So that's the basic rate, and then they add a spread for risk on that. But as you all know, right now, U.S. Treasury bill rates are very low. But when they go up, then maybe OPIC financing won't be very attractive. And also, for long-term financing, they do give grace periods. And usually that's during the construction phase. And it's something that is negotiated case by case. But generally, it can range from 6 months to 2 years. And also sometimes, of course, they prefer to see the equity invested first. But it's also possible to negotiate where debt and equity come in pari passu together. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. The only people or companies eligible for political risk insurance are the U.S. company or U.S. investor. That's right. World Business Capital is part of a network of companies that help process transactions at OPIC. They do have exposure in the deals, so it's not just a service they're providing, they're also investing a certain percentage themselves. But the debt actually still comes from OPIC. And the reason this network was established, and it was about 10 years ago, was because there were a great number of applications from medium-sized firms. And I can say that working through one of these companies like World Business Capital, there are a few of these companies. It actually, I have seen that they are able sometimes to process the loans faster. Okay, yeah, I understood. So in this situation, it depends on when do you start counting, you know? So when I was counting, if you go directly to OPIC, it's from when you submit a summary. Okay. And I'm saying it's roughly a year. And so you submit the summary, a few months later you submit a formal application, then you negotiate a term sheet, then you get approval, then you go to legal. But my experience is that World Business Capital has been doing things very fast. But not. Okay, so there could be many reasons why that they're leveraging at a higher percentage. The first is maybe the risk of the deal is much lower. It could also be that the developmental impacts of the project are very high. Every project at OPIC gets something called a developmental score. So if it's about clean energy, if it creates a lot of jobs, if it helps develop the Ukrainian economy, and it has a very high impact, this can also be a favorable indicator. But it's the general equation of our financial life. The lower the risk, the higher the percentage they are able to take. And if it's an expansion project, they tend to go higher than 50%. No, это не требование. So it's not a requirement to have U.S. exports. Correct. So 2 points. One, the Chinese can't register a corporation in Delaware and then apply for OPIC financing as your partner. No. You have to have an American investor, citizen, or an American company that's owned beneficially majority by Americans. And the theory there is that U.S. investors will strengthen the project. They'll bring their management culture in addition to their money, and that will benefit the country. Yes, but most importantly, OPIC financing is only for projects in the 108 countries in which they operate. Yes, they're open in Kazakhstan. Oh, and then the final point is that each project gets what is something called a U.S. effect. You know, it's analyzed for how it affects the U.S. economy. So if you have a solar energy project, and you have the option to purchase the solar panels from the United States and put them in your project here in Ukraine, or from China. In both situations, OPIC will consider your. However, if you choose to source equipment from the United States, your project will be more attractive. No, because in addition to having development effects in Ukraine, it also has a nice effect in the U.S. But it's not a requirement. К сожалению, потому что моя основная должность это увеличить качество экспортов от США до Украины. Я хотела бы, чтобы был такой связь, но поскольку их миссия это не увеличить объем экспортов, их миссия это помогать Украине развиваться. Вот.
Но это двойной эффект будет?
Yes, so это лучше, конечно, но я не буду обманывать это.
Это может повлиять на сроки рассмотрения ОПИК?
Does it influence the duration of process? No,
Okay. Well, thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're late, obviously. Any questions? I think Michelle answered a lot of questions, I think, on OPIC. Any funding questions for Naum?
So risk management and guarantees for EPC contracts. Contract with an EPC itself, it's not a guarantee. A more extensive answer to your question. There are two types of guarantees required in addition to contracts with EPCs. First, it's completion guarantee, a guarantee provided by the EPC that the project will be completed on time and on budget. And secondly, it's performance guarantee that the facility to be built will operate with a planned performance according to the figures stipulated by the business plan. And those two types of guarantees are provided additionally to the contracts, and they cost extra money. And not every EPC is capable of providing such guarantees, because such guarantees are accepted only in case if they are balanced book guarantees. It means that the EPC should have enough assets to cover those liabilities, the guarantees. And quite often we are asked the question, so green energy projects, solar projects, solar in particular solar projects, there is no nuclear science involved. They are technologically quite simple. Why do you not accept Ukrainian EPCs to do so, to provide the guarantees? And the question is quite simple. They do not have that. They are not capable of providing balance book guarantees, because they cannot demonstrate, cannot prove their assets that are capable of covering what's necessary. But the good news is that such guarantees are required not in every case, and it's assessed and reviewed on case-by-case basis.
Was this helpful today? One of the questions I usually get, nobody asks, AACE cost about $150 for an individual membership, and a corporate membership's about, which is for 8 members, is about, I think, $1,200. If you go to the annual meeting, you get a discount of about $100. So basically, it almost makes your membership for free if you decide to go to an annual meeting. And you get access to 50,000 documents for free. You get the TCM framework for free. There are 90 recommended practices downloadable for free. If you try to usually buy a professional textbook, it's going to cost you $150. So it's a very beneficial association to a lot of people. If you can get your company to commit to a corporate membership, I'll teach a certification prep course or some skills courses for up to 30 people for free, that's a course that usually goes for $750 to $2,000 per person plus travel. $750 to $2,000 per person plus travel. So basically, for a $1,500 investment, you'll get $15,000 to $40,000 worth of free training. And the benefit to us as membership grows, you network, but it gets people in a consistent professional basis. And it helps fund your projects here. As you can tell, between Naum, myself, and OPIC, it gets your projects funded here. If there's no more questions, I'll just conclude. Well, thank you for coming on behalf of On Track and AACE and Trafficon. Our intention, as I said, to have some other conferences and offer some training programs. If there's anything, as I said, Julia is going to put an online box of the presentations for you. There'll be some notifications of training courses to be offered. If you'd like to get a demo of the software or a sandbox, the IT side, we don't just send you a cheap demo or thing or do a demonstration. We'll give you a sandbox that you can try and input and try your programs on. If you got a project you want to get funded, you can always contact Naum and I. If you've got any other questions, please send a note to us. I can tell you one thing. We did a beta test when Lyazzat and I were in Kazakhstan as for the last 3 months of the project. Deltec wanted to charge us $120,000 for 3 licenses for 1 year renewal. $120,000. 3 licenses for annual maintenance. We loaded it into OnTrack, and it took 2 weeks to load 7 years worth of data. We had to sell 7 years worth of data into the system, all procurement, all cost. So it's an easy conversion. They tried to load it into Ecosys in, let's see, it's now been 9 months and they still can't produce 1 report at a cost of $4 million. So and our cost of our 3 licenses was $1,500 a month, $1,500 a month. 3 licenses, $500 a month per license. I'm sorry, that's significant savings. So if you want to make a test, please send a note to Julie and she'll get you with the IT guys. We are the only software. When we say multi-currency, we tack into Forex. When you make your purchase commitment, it goes into Forex and converts it into every currency that you've put in your report at the same time you make the procurement. All the others, the best they can do is a day. They can only do a day rate at the end of the day. They can't do it. We do it live. And one of the softwares, they can only do it monthly. That's pretty much standard is once a month they average a money bucket, what they call money basket. And we found out the reason why it was important to us, as Lyazzat mentioned, the Kazakh currency in September 2015, it was 180 tengies to the dollar on Friday. On Monday when people came to work, it was 250, and it was 330 a week later. That was a tough month to average. The other thing, we are the only software with 24-hour customer service with native language speakers. So we have people in Ukraine and in Czech who will speak Russian, German, and our competitors, the best you can get is if you are a die-hard Oracle customer service member, i.e. that means you spend $250 million on their software, they will give you same-day customer support in English. If you want Ecosys, same-time customer support, you have to hire their staff and put them in your department at a billable rate of $250 an hour. We can't compete with them. We're not even trying to. We're staying in these markets. We focus on the small to medium contractor. We're focused on developing countries, Ukraine, Russia, Kazakhstan, Middle East, because nobody else is. So hopefully you found it beneficial. Hopefully for us, you like to try the software. Hopefully for Naum and I, you want us to fund your projects. We believe in Ukraine. We've been committed here. As I said, I've worked with Traficon for 8-9 years. We think it's on the rebound, and we think now's the time to do it. So if you're committed to that, or you need help on project management, please give us a shout. We're a real low-key sales pitch, you can tell. To be honest, we just do it by experience. We're experienced. If you want it and you want help, we're glad to do it. That's why we are able to do what we do. I don't think there's anybody in Traficon beyond the intern that doesn't have 20 years of financial experience. There's nobody in my company who doesn't have a minimum of 10 years experience. We have some interns. And the difference is, as you said, you have Naum here, and he has a local staff. My staff, if you notice, I'm the token American Canadian. My staff's all Ukrainian, Kazakh, Russian. Basically, the networking is just real simple. If you want to come down and just have a drink at the bar downstairs, appreciate your questions and involvement. Thank you.